Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Grzymala-Busse. I'm the director of the Europe Center here at Stanford. And it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome today Senator Matteo Renzi. A native of Florence, Matteo Renzi has held a variety of very high-level positions in Italian politics. In 2004, he was the president of the Florentine Republic, a position he held for 5 years. He then became the wildly popular mayor of Florence, and then became the prime minister of Italy in 2014. His cabinet was known for its youth. The prime minister is the youngest prime minister in Italian history, and for its inclusion of women who composed half the cabinet. Their administration was also notable for its very strong push for reforms of the Italian state, economy, and electoral system. The prime minister himself, in fact, became known as il rottamatore, the demolition man, the scrapper. Subsequently, he continued to serve as a leader of the Democratic Party and is now a member of the Senate of the Republic of Italy. So today, please join me in welcoming him as he delivers his speech entitled Innovation and Populism, the Twin Challenges Facing Europe. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everybody. It's really a great honor to be here again in Stanford with a lot of friends. And thank you for his warm welcome. Thank you so much to Anna for the kind introduction. Thanks to everyone. Thanks particularly to Honorable Ron Spogli for Italian language. When he was ambassador, everyone discussed Spogli or Spogli. And Ron is a great benefactor of this university, of course. But first of all, he is for me and for Italian people a great friend. And when I became as president of Florence County, Florence Province, I was encouraged and supported and helped from the ambassador of the United States of America, for Ambassador Spogli. And the message, very good, the very positive message was always, America is the land of opportunities and the possibilities. So try again, risk. No, don't hesitate. Try to change the world, try to change your city. And I think this is a very important message also for today. Obviously, Ron today is also a Florentine. I have a little problem because last time he visited Florence, a few weeks ago, we met up for lunch. I booked via text a trattoria, a little restaurant in the city center. We sat down and we are about to order. When Ron gave me some advice about food, Florentine food, I understood something that's very different. So it's when you know the food of a traditional trattoria in Florence better than the former mayor, you have really a Florentine. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much to all the students, particularly the students who share some very good experience in Florence. Last year in my class in 2017 and 2018, I bring greetings from the community of Stanford Florence, particularly from the great woman who is Linda Campani, the director. I hope that your return to Stanford did not give you too much nostalgia of the beauties of Florence, of the Florentine days, also the Florentine nights, but we discuss only about, we remember also the Florentine days. And I don't think that you miss our lessons, but certainly you remember our final visit inside Palazzo Vecchio, inside the tower of Palazzo Vecchio, very good experience. So I love Stanford for many reasons, but let me tell you a little story. I'd been prime minister for a few months, and my office was very tense, very nervous, because I had not yet arranged my first visit in my first official trip as Prime Minister to the United States. You know, there is a protocol. So, Mr. Prime Minister, you decide about the first trip. just we can wait. I had already met President Obama several times in Rome, official bilateral meeting in other cities, so very good relation and the traditional friendship between USA and Italy. But I had not yet organized the first official visit, and finally, you know these offices are. Mr. Prime Minister, where do you intend to start from? From the Washington headquarters of the federal government, or from New York City headquarters of the United Nations? I think about it. I think just some minutes, and then I say, I will start from Stanford University. The reaction was not very good, because my friends, my assistant, look me like as okay, like as I'm idiot, and the reaction was, Prime Minister, Stanford is not in New York City and is not in Washington D.C. Thank you so much for very good indication. It's very important for me to discover that, but okay, New York is the capital, is the headquarters of the United Nations. Washington is the headquarters, the capital of United States. But really, I think Stanford is the capital of the future. And I believe in that consideration. I want to start with Stanford as an act of homage to the university that more than any other universities around the world has helped in the innovation. And we organize a very special dinner here. But I think if we can consider that as not simply a formal homage, but a very political consideration, we have to come back to an Italian word. The Italian word I propose to you to start in our discussion is the word bottega. We can translate maybe with workshop, with lab. But bottega was the place in the Renaissance age in which a master tried to persuade the students, the disciples, to make great things. The great personalities of Renaissance, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Giotto, became great leaders, great painters, great artists, great men inside this bottega. The master tried to explain to disciple, try again. And Florence was a small city, not very beautiful in the past, far away from the great infrastructure of the time. It became great when it opened up to international trade, and when Florentine workers, hardly working, making money with clothes, with fashion of the past, then they were able to embrace the globalization of the time. They opened the frontiers, they opened the borders, and they make a lot of money. And they became great in finance. It's very interesting, the history of Renaissance, because bottega became the place to create a future with a lot of money, with a lot of support of men and women in the past who use the giving back, we can use this expression of today. They decided to give a lot of money for education, for culture, for studies. And many say this giving back comes from the fear of going to hell, because in the traditional religion, the idea that if you make a lot of money, too much money to risk to go to hell. But it's interesting, very important, I think. Florence became a great city, and finally, Florence gave the birthday to Renaissance thanks to this incredible thing, work very strongly, finance, giving back, bottega. So the world today needs a new renaissance. And universities around the world today are the new bottega, the new workshop, the new labs. And for that reason, we need places in which masters help the young people to become great. There is a very interesting expression in Latin. You know, when you became the leader of the government in Italy, or in other countries, you became prime minister. Minister means the member of government. Prime minister is the head of government, the chief of government, and the minister are the secretary in the politics, American politics. And minister came from an expression, from Latin expression, came from minus in English translation. Minus, ministro. It's interesting because master, teacher, educator, came from magis. Magis means plus, big. Magis and minus. In Latin expression, a master is more important than a minister. An educator is more important than a politician. I think we need both. We need masters and ministers. Also, if there is not a good prime minister, we have a problem. But it's interesting, this message from Latin expression. And I think that is the reason. The great importance for me of Stanford University and the reason of the first start in my official trip in the United States was this university. Discussing today about populism and innovation is not easy. Also because nobody could define populism, in my opinion. We discussed during the lunch with Anna about it. What is populism? Populism is not easy to understand. For example, it's impossible to recognize populism from individual policies. During the course in Florence, we had fun with some examples. About drugs. Is populist the government of Bolivia, and is populist the government of the Philippines? President Morales and President Duterte. But about drugs, the position is totally different. In Bolivia, you are maybe encouraged to cultivate drug. In Philippines, you risk the death. About South America, maybe the personal history of Hugo Chavez, personal history, military, and then president, it's not too much different as personal history of the new president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, military and then president. Very loved from the people, very populist, against establishment, but totally different position. A social communist and a far-right leader. Maybe if you think about European politics today, we consider populists the movement of left in Spain called Podemos. But we consider populist also the movement of far-right in Germany, Alternative for Deutschland. A near-communist party and a neo-Nazist party. The yellow vest, the Gilets jaunes, who today attacked the government of Emmanuel Macron in France, bring together in the squares the radical right and the radical left. And please, let me be very frank, we are between friends. Also, our governments sometimes are considered populists. The President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Italy are totally different. For example, Italy increased taxation level this year with the new law of budget to subsidize everyone. It's a very different politics from the politics of Donald Trump government. So it's impossible to use the expression populists without a different definition. It's impossible to use the single policies to define populism. And if you think about Latin expression again, populism came from populus, people. Populus Romanus was the base of King of Rome and then a Roman Empire. But in the first period, populus was a very good positive word. Populus in the first years of Rome was a very good thing. In Seneca, 1st century after Christ, populus became a negative expression, exactly as today. So we can try to use the definition of populism as the search to give responsibility to a different person. I'm not responsible for the crisis of migration, the responsible of bad Europe. I'm not responsible for the crisis of economy, the responsible is the previous government. And always the responsibility is against an establishment, a leadership who is different in theory from the new incumbent leader. But if this is true, I think, and this is the reason of our discussion today, in Europe, there is something of different in this momentum. My reading, my personal reading, what I call the populist risks in Europe about populism is totally connected with the innovation. More correctly, with the lack of innovation. Populism in Europe today denies the future. It makes the future is a place scary, dark, dangerous. The message is, please protect yourself from the future. This is totally different from American dream. I love American dream. It's a message of great possibility. Try. You can achieve your goal. And also in a part of our history in our continent and also in Italy after Second World War II, the boom, Italian boom, the message was a very positive message. Please build something. Find your way. Today, the message is totally different also in my personal, in my cultural party. I came from Italy, you know, and I am democratic. Also in my part, in my political part, a lot of people think, oh, future is a threat. Future is a fear. Tomorrow will be a problem. Our children will have a lot of problems, so protect ourselves. This message is bad, is a mistake, but it's against education. It's not educative. Let's be clear. In the world of globalization, here we are in the center of globalized world. Here there are, they grow up in this university a lot of great innovators who changed the history of digital life and maybe also of the politics. We know the globalization presents also some risks, some problems, okay, we know. And when I was prime minister, I tried to change something. We increased by law the salary of workers by $100 every month. And maybe in the United States this is not particularly popular. We changed with the law the salary. We changed the rules to give more rights to women, particularly to women, at work and in politics. There is a great question about women in Europe, not only in the United States, and it's important to don't reduce this question about the correct and the right battle for Me Too movement, very important, but there is a very great political problem, particularly in Europe. There are a lot of women who achieve great results and there is not top jobs for them. We changed the law for no-profit organization to help NGO, and I believe it's right to ensure in the great companies there is a form of employee representation or participation. So I'm not a member of liberalist community, neoliberalist community, hyper-liberalist community. But at the same time, after this introduction and this presentation, I think the great risk of blocking Europe is a message of the future is a problem, please reduce everything to protection and to assistance. This is a mistake. This is a terrible mistake, because Europe stops being a pioneer, stops being a curious. Europe became only a great executor of technocratic procedures. This is the big risk for Europe. Populism grew up with a lack of innovation. It's okay, the criticism against the establishment, it's okay, every message we can describe populism, but in Europe it's particularly that. Red tape of bureaucracy destroy the great idea of Europe and give a message not right, because really in the last years poverty decreases, infant mortality decreases, the average age increases. It's not true the world is worse than the past. It's very good for the people. I'm 44 years old now, so I'm not youngest as in the past. The students haven't time to remember the past, but also my generation and the generation more more expert, correctly, more expert. There are also here a lot of friends. When we think about our past, we think, wonderful, when we were 20 years old, wonderful world. Yeah, for our personal life, but not for the life of the people. And this message against the future is a terrible mistake, because destroy, particularly in the left party, the idea progressive is good. In Europe, this is a tragedy in the Europe debate. So, Europe was home to the greatest political innovation in history. Because the way in direction of United States of Europe, my dream, continued to be a very hard way and a difficult way, but was unbelievable for the generation of my grandfather. My grandfather made war against France. And the older grandfather made war against Greece. Today, we have an Erasmus generation, and I think the only war is in the soccer time. Unfortunately, we cannot discuss about soccer after France won the World Cup against it. This is a very tragedy for Italy and for, Churchill used to say, Italy lost the war with the same approach when he lost the match of soccer. But the problem is Italian people lost the match of soccer and considered that as a war. It's a very good quote of Winston Churchill after World War II. But Europe became a place of peace and freedom thanks to innovation, greatest innovation. And I think this innovation, after 70 years, cannot continue to be only a only a message about the past. We need next 70 years. Also, if pessimism is a fashion, pessimism is cool today, and if you declare yourself an optimist, they call you crazy. I think Europe have a lot of things important to do in the next years. First, to be the place of culture and values. When I was prime minister, during attacks of Islamic terrorists against Bataclan, a lot of my colleagues used the expression, this is a new world war. Do you remember? It was in 2015. Bataclan attacks destroyed the life of a lot of people in November 2015. And I tried to propose to my colleagues a different approach. Okay, we have to invest a lot of money in security. Yeah. In cybersecurity, yes. Facial recognition, yes. Arms, yeah. Policemen in the street, yes. It's absolutely correct also to give a message of friendship for the people. But at the same time, for every euro we invest in security, we have to invest the same money in culture, in education, in theater, in museum, in the presence of suburbs, in banlieue. Because this is the way not only to protect our past, but build future. A lot of terrorists came not from Syria, not from Libya, but from our cities. The terrorists who attacked Charlie Hebdo board came from Paris, Saint-Denis, banlieue. The terrorists who attacked Bataclan came from Molenbeek, Brussels. The killer of Daesh, Jihadi John, grew up in a school in English in the UK. So this is the message. We have to build in Europe able to give a cultural message. It's not a very genial idea. I copy from my city, as usual. Florence is an open source city. And during Renaissance age, Florentine people decided to build a lot of very beautiful things, particularly one thing, the doors of Baptistery. Baptistery is exactly in front of cathedral. And there are some unbelievable doors now is inside the Museum of Opera del Duomo. And they were raised from Ghiberti. The budget for the construction of those doors, called Doors of the Paradise from Michelangelo, because Michelangelo said, this door is so beautiful, it could be the doors of paradise. And the name is Doors of the Paradise after the quote of Michelangelo. So these doors was realized from Florentine city with the same money used every year for defense budget. €1 invested in culture, €1 invested in security. Is a copy of Renaissance idea. We invest a lot of money to save our culture, our identity. Europe have to invest in this direction because the risk became simply a club of very boring rules in the financial system. And we lost our soul, our identity. I believe in that. I believe in a policy about migration will be able to refuse the idea of only fear. Lead the policy on migration. Do you know how many migrants arrived in Italy in the first 10 days of 2018? Last year, not with the new minister Salvini, last year, with our government. Less than 500. In a country of 60 million, 500 people. Okay, we can integrate. We have to organize some policy. But 500 people. A country with 60 million of people could fear for 500 migrants? Really? Where is the problem? The problem is the narrative. Migration is our problem. No, demography is our problem. The problem is not the ships who came from Libya. The problem is in France today, 40% of new birth came from second generation of Arabic country. 40% of new people in France. This is the problem. The problem for Europe is the demography, because we are 500 million. Africa will be in the next 25 years 2.5 billion of people. And when we discussed about the single point between single countries in Europe, with the polemics and with social network who gave the message of a great preoccupation for 500 migrants, in the same time, Chinese government decided to call 51 head of state and government in China, in Beijing, and President Xi Jinping have a check of $60 billion of new infrastructure, new investment from China in Africa. We need the same thing United States of America made for us after Second World War II, a Marshall Plan. We need to build a Marshall Plan for Africa as Europe. If you continue to discuss about migration only with a like on Facebook, we cannot able to build a strategy. Today, Nigeria is 160 million of citizens. In the next 25 years, it will be 3 times, 450 million. Migration is just start without a strategy. So we need a Europe able to win populism with the politics, with a great courage, not simply with the preoccupation. And obviously, we change perspective of economic rules. There is not austerity, the answer. A professor of this great institute, the Freeman Spogli Institute, Professor Fukuyama, and thank you so much to be here, used a very great expression about the United States politics, but I think also about Europe and Italy, vitocracy. In Italy, it's very easy to play with the expression because veto is similar to voto, vote. And the power is not in the hands of the people who bring the votes, but who have the veto, who can block everything. If this could be true for the United States, you can suppose that is absolutely true in Europe. It's true also in Italy. Unfortunately, I lost my job for that. I tried to reduce the complication of Italian politics. I remember my first meeting with the President Obama. We discussed about Libya. You know, Italy's government have a lot of problems, and we change every year, more or less, government. 71 years after World War II, no, now 73, 74 now, and I don't remember, 65, 66 government. So 1 year, the longevity of government is not too much important. And my government during 3 years, so in my benchmark in the last century, better than my government only Berlusconi, Craxi, and Mussolini. Very, very impressive benchmark, very impressive benchmark. And so my first meeting with President Obama, I remember the discussion, he told me, oh, Libya, they change government every year. He stopped and looked at me. No, sorry, I don't discuss about Italy. So I try to change the constitution to give stability and to permit to the people to have a government for 5 years, to give not vitocracy, not the bloc, not the power of bloc, but at the same time we lost. And so my dream was I cancel 315 jobs in Senate. The only jobs cancelled was my jobs, but this is a different thing. I think it's important to underline, also in Europe, there is the same vitocracy. block. But I believe Europe have a great possibility. And it's not true. In 2019, we'll be sure the victory of populism. It's exactly the opposite. Because surely, populist party will have a good result, but the most important jobs in 2019, the President of the European Commission, the President of the European Council, the President of the European Central Bank, very important, and the President of the European Parliament will be in the hands of traditional parties. But, let me be very clear with you, Europe with great challenge for the future is not Europe without the United States of America. My personal view, okay, we need more Europe. It's correct. But we need also more America. We need also more United States of America because we risk too much without the United States of America. There are a lot of books in this period about the comeback to empire, the role of China, the role of Russia. I think if the United States of America closes itself away within its own borders, this is a problem for the United States of America economy, for United States of America values, and for United States of America role. I was very struck by the decision to leave Syria, just to make an example. I know Bolton in the last hours gave a message difference respect to the first tweet of the President Trump. But if you think about Syria, you don't discuss simply about Syria. If America living in this way leaves an open field to Russia in the Middle East, it exposes to Kurdistan people who fought against extremists alone in some cases. I visited Erbil when I was president of European Council for 6 months in August 2014, 2 weeks after the strikes of the American. And I knew a lot of men and women, boys and girls, particularly girls, who fought against extremists, who saved honor to Western values against Daesh 2 months after the Iraqi defeat in Mosul. So I think it's absolutely important to consider United States of America crucial in this discussion about the future of Europe. So populists will not win in Europe in the next election. Today, there are the government in my country, also for a system. The party of Minister of Interior, Matteo Salvini, achieved a result worse than my party in the last election. But we decided to avoid an agreement with the Five-Star Movement because we consider Five-Star Movement and the Lega Nord two populist parties. And if we accept an idea to make an agreement, we, as a Five-Star Movement, against the Lega Nord, we transform Italy in a land led by a populist bipolarism. It's a terrible mistake. So we can accept a government of populists to build an alternative, but we cannot accept every politics became a politics of populism in Italy. But the real priority in this moment is give a message. Future is a place of possibility. United States are leader of the free world again. And we need more United States of America around the world. At the same time, we need more Europe, not only red tape of bureaucracy. I'm not interested in the boring meetings in Brussels. Terrible, terrible. I think the worst thing I made in my experience, the meeting about the document is terrible. But we need also an investment in education and in politics. And this is the reason for which I come back to role of Bottega. I start from Stanford, not only to give a welcome to my friends when I was prime minister, but because really I consider that the priority, educate the new generation to risk. This is particularly true in this period. We remember Leonardo da Vinci because there is the 50th century anniversary of that. And Leonardo said, sad is the disciple who doesn't surpass his master. The vocation of the disciple is surpass the master. But let me be more respectful to American culture and conclude a quote of Michael Jordan. I love it. I have missed 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games and matches. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed. I failed over and over and over in my life. And that is why I succeed. I think this is the message very good today. Try again, risk. Not consider the future is a place for the people who live in the fear. And it's the same message of Brunelleschi, our friends who spent some time in Florence, and the new Stanford headquarters in Florence, very beautiful, is exactly in downtown, and it looks very, very well, everything. There is the Duomo, the cathedral, the roof of Duomo is built by Brunelleschi. All the Florentine people are very bad people. When Brunelleschi decided to cover the Duomo, Florentine people reaction were terrible. Oh, it's impossible. Nobody could achieve this result. Oh, it's impossible to use this technical. And Brunelleschi, exactly as Michael Jordan, I think the relation between Brunelleschi and Michael Jordan, it's I think it's the first time. I'm sorry for the great professor and teacher. This I have a great professor. My relation is Brunelleschi, Michael Jordan, but Brunelleschi made the same thing. Try. So don't leave the future to the people who invest in the fear. Don't leave the politics in the hands of the people who believe possible only give a message of desperation. Because if we destroy our culture, United States of America and Europe give the future of the world to other people. And this could be a disaster for American culture and for European culture. Obviously, to change the things, we need brave men, brave women, and the capacity to invest in the future. There is Europe ready for that. We will see in the next European election in the next years. But I'm sure if we invest in the new generation and in the education, we will have a new century of American and European culture. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for an absolutely fantastic and very inspiring lecture. The idea of not having to fear is certainly one that we welcome here. But I was wondering if you could talk briefly about how do politicians, how do governments reassure those who do fear, for whom innovation means displacement and taking a risk means possibly losing their livelihoods. In sort of an increasingly risky labor market and increasingly risky financial situation.
The first problem for me, for a government today, particularly in Europe, is the lack of certainty about time. President Xi Jinping have a lot of time. The plan for the next 25, 30 years. a lot of people who don't respect democratic values have a lot of times. I think for Russia it's not a problem to have a great time in front. Ourselves, we think only, not only in Italy with the government to change every year, but also in the other countries, we have the risk to change government, and a lot of time we think about the maintain the chair. So the risk about financial, democracy, labor markets are a risk, but today the priority will be give to the government the message to have a strategy and not only the tactical approach. Then there are the single policies, and of course we live in a period of great discussions about power of markets, globalization. A lot of people think, oh, globalization destroys equality. It's not true. Okay, there are a lot of division, a lot of gap, but please, let me be very, very, very honest with you. Lack of equality is not a problem created by globalization. And nobody government could block the globalization. We can invent something important of new in the social security policy with the people, but nobody could block that. So my first preoccupation about the government are first, the timeline of our experience, second, we can change the traditional values in market and in finance for fear of the future. And if you think, a lot of countries give this message. There is an expression, I don't know if there is also in the Anglo-Saxon literature, but illiberal democracies, with a contradiction, because liberal democracy is always liberal. But we risk to have a lot of that. I think the only way to fight that is a cultural fight, and then a political fight.
But how, for example, places like Poland and Hungary, which are very much illiberal democracies, who have started this slide backwards towards authoritarianism, are part of the European Union, they're part of the same cultural community. What tools are there to prevent that kind of a backsliding?
About Hungary, it's very interesting, the book of Matteo Renzi, when he remember Viktor Orban in June 1989 in Budapest, and the Viktor Orban of today. And Matteo Renzi posed the question in the book, I think Fascism book, who is the man who changed? This Viktor Orban or the Viktor Orban of 30 years ago? So about the situation in Europe, Europe have the possibility to block this illiberal democracy, because the people who consider Europe an enemy and the nationalism a value, every day use the Facebook and politics and the TV to give a message against Europe, but every year received a lot of money from European Union. So I proposed, when I was Prime Minister, during a very terrible night, exactly against Victor and other colleagues, who refused the idea to welcome some migrants, I posed the question about migration not for the numbers, but for the principle. If we are a community, everyone has to respect the necessity to welcome someone. And Viktor Orban and others told me, no, we cannot welcome nobody. Okay, if you are not able to solidarity with me in migration, I'm sorry, in the next budget of European institution, I will not able to give money from Italian taxpayers to Hungarian state. So there is the possibility, but we need a strategy from European leaders. And The problem is the lack of leadership in our side. 2014, Europe was stronger than today. Just an example, UK. We don't discuss about Brexit, but it's a tragedy for me. David Cameron is not on my side in politics, but was a leader. Theresa May, with all the respect for the Prime Minister of UK, is not David Cameron. The Angela Merkel of 2014 was stronger than Angela Merkel of today, unfortunately. Spain government in 2014 was very stronger than today. Poland government in 2014 was totally different with respect to Poland government of 2019. So this possibility to block illiberal democracy are first the budget, the money, second the rule. But we need leaders and not followers. And sometimes we have the followers and not the leaders of the government.
So it sounds like you're describing a European Union that's less well equipped to meet challenges, even as those challenges increase.
For me, it's very strange for me because I love European ideals, and I'm a citizen of Florence, you understand. I have the Italian passport, but I feel myself as a citizen of the world with European culture. So, the idea of crisis of Europe is for me also a personal problem, a sad thing for my life. But what is the way to surpass the crisis? If in 2019 we will have new leaders in the principal institution, and if finally we will involve a new generation in the leadership of European culture more than European politics, we have a lot of hopes. Do you know the book of Foster Wallace, when there is two young fishes and an old fish? I don't know if you remember this starting of this book of Foster Wallace. There are two young fishes and an old fish. And the old fish look at the young fishes and today, how is the water? And the reaction of two young fishes, what is water? It's interesting. Old people in Europe think there is the future for Europe. Young people in Europe consider Europe the home, the house. My children look the soccer team in UK in Germany more than in Italy. For me, this is a great problem, but this is Erasmus generation. It's a normal life in the European experience. So I need the only way to surpass European crisis is invest in the new generation for the medium period and choice good person for the top jobs in 2019, with all the respect for Juncker, Tusk, and Tajani, but it's important to have a fresh start for the European project.
But where would this fresh start come from? Who do you see as sort of the potential replacements? Those are the new leading lights.
The potential replacement means
For the, instead of Junckers, who would take his place?
Some names.
Not necessarily names, but trajectories, pathways.
Personally, I hope just one place minimum for a woman, I hope. My government was the first and also the last to have the 50% of women. There are a lot of women very able to use to become president of commission, president of council. I think the new leader will have great capacity to win the vitocracy of the system. So means if we decide in to transform Europe in a place of opportunities for digital revolution, for 5G, for giga society, for algorithm investment, for artificial intelligence, we cannot wait every country. We cannot continue to wait 27 countries. Okay, I'm ready. We need some leaders able to respect the rule, but push energy in this direction. Also because this should be great chance for Europe. If we combine together the traditional values of culture of Europe with algorithm, with innovation, with digital revolution, we can really write a new page. We need a philosophy, not only scientists. We are both, and Europe and the United States of America could play a great role, but we have to discuss about it, not to make polemics about NATO investment. I agree with the people who ask more investment in NATO, but it's not only the NATO budget our problem. So this is a priority in my view. People able to be very great leader and some crazies because we need, when I was prime minister, a lot of people told me, you are crazy. And I have a lot of wise men inside. But I think we need some to be able to change rule, to don't respect every procedure in European institution. And this is particularly true for President of the European Commission. Obviously, for President of the ECB, we don't need crazy men. So for European Central Bank, Mario Draghi made a great job, and we need a wise man.
Perhaps a crazy demolition man as the President of the Commission.
I think the problem is the modality of choice, the men and the women, because there is the vote of president, of the chief of government, the votes of parliament. So unfortunately, it's not easy to choose personalities outstanding. But I think I'm optimistic. After Brexit, Europe is in front of a terrible decision. Or we come back to a great energetic vision about Europe, or we continue with a very boring procedure and the technocrats. I think this is a problem for Brexit. For UK, Brexit will be a disaster in every case, in case of agreement and in case of lack of agreement. Because London is a great city, is one of the capitals of the world, but the decision to leave EU will be a disaster for UK, but also for us. If we cannot able to try to write a new page, Brexit should be the first signal of decline of Europe.
What do you think the impact of Brexit will be on the European Union itself? Can it build a stronger, deeper union, or was this the canary?
After the referendum, okay, I have a problem with the expression referendum. After I lost the referendum, I found a club with David Cameron and other people. In 2016, everyone lost the referendum. But the genius was the president of Colombia, my friend Santos, who lost the referendum, very important referendum about peace, and he told, okay, but this is not important. We continue with the processes of peace, and this was good. And he won the Nobel Prize. We joke because in the club of the man who lost the referendum, Santos is not, is a president. Myself and Cameron, we are not able to be president. Jokes apart. After referendum in July 2016, I was prime minister with Angela Merkel and François Hollande. We tried to give a new timeline for relaunch idea of Europe. But my defeat in referendum in December 2016, the decision of François Hollande to don't participate in the election in December 2016, the election of May, the difficulties of Merkel blocked that. Now I hope in the electoral campaign, the consequences of Brexit will be economics for UK, but also cultural for UK. In the last 2 years and a half, UK discussed only about Brexit. They stopped to make a discussion about innovation, EA, digital transformation. UK was a model until 2016 for a lot of us in the organization of government. And it's interesting because Tony Blair had a very good speech in Chatham House in June 2018 about Brexit. They gave the power to Brexit men who proposed a very strong Brexit in name of liberalism. But the people who vote for Brexit in the suburbs of cities in the north of the UK ask exactly the opposite of liberalism, ask more protectionism, ask a revolution of a national healthcare system. And with this relation between liberalism and the request of protectionism in the north, we will build a chaos in the next years in UK. So my view, my personal view, is Brexit will be a disaster for in UK if we use the electoral campaign to give some proposed ideas, to come back to some very great projects. So Europe could use an expression from Latin, you know, ex malo bonum. From bad, you can bring something of positive. If Europe lost this opportunity, will be a problem because after Brexit, we will have maybe also older people. So it's a strategic point.
So I know that there are a lot of people who would like to ask questions of you, so I'll cede the floor. But before I do, one final question. So what kind of grand projects do you envision? You mentioned these big projects, so what would they look like?
For me, for Europe or for me, for Italy?
All of it.
For Europe, I think the great project is continue to work for United States of Europe. My dream is a president of commission elected from the people. Today, the possibility in range between 0 and 100 is near to 0, 1, 2, I exaggerate. But my dream is exactly that, continue to a great vision about that. For my country, I loved Italy, and I love Italy, I will love Italy. I think Italy is one of the most unbelievable countries around the world. For a lot of time, we had a good car with a bad driver, more or less as Ferrari in this period. And with all the respect for Vettel, but Italy have a lot of opportunities. It's an incredible country in terms of engineering, quality of job, but it's divided today. There is a north who have a performance in economy better than Germany, and we are a south rich of problems. I have the pleasure to meet some of Italian students here after the lunch, before our meeting. Very good people, great person, and I'm touched. A lot of them came from north. But a lot of people who came from south wrote the history of Italy and also around the world. So we need to come back to only one Italy, able to risk, able to try, today the message negative, in my personal view, and sorry for that, of our government in Italy is give a message, okay, don't worry. I can give to everyone a salary. The future is a problem. The robotics can sell the jobs, so we, populist government of Italy, will give everyone a salary. This is a terrible thing, because this is a message against the values of job, of research in our country. So my dream for Italy is to come back to only one country and not to different country. And the great project for me is learn. I'm a very lucky guy because I served as mayor in my city. The city most beautiful around the world, so it's obviously Florence is that. I consider that place the capital of the new Renaissance, but we are the capital of the first Renaissance. So I served as mayor for 5 years. I served as prime minister for 1,000 days. Maybe I come back because Italian politics, after referendum, unfortunately, will be always a ring. So maybe I'll be back in the power, but in this moment, the great project is learn, is study, is meet a lot of people of quality. And this is a great luxury for a politician, to have the time to learn, to have the time to study, to have the time to meet some people are very interesting. And for the next 2-3 years, my great project is use the defeat to become better. And for this reason, with all the respect for Leonardo and Brunelleschi, Michael Jordan is the right man for my quote.
Thank you. On that note, why don't we turn to the audience and bring questions? Go ahead.
Hi, I wanted to ask you, since you know that I always loved your optimism, part of the same party, and I was a candidate last year, so I really love the way you, everything that you did. And I'm sorry of the actual government that we have now. You're very optimistic about Europe, but the elections are in May, so they're very close. Are we forming this front, democratic front? Are we forming like a big group in Europe to defeat the populism? And what is your forecast for the Democratic Party in May? So I would like to know your ideas, because we're talking a lot about this big front of Democrats, of progressives in Europe. And do you think that actually you said that we have 27 countries in Europe, so there are a lot of different thinkings. Do you think that we should have some leader countries in Europe to govern Euro, so we should be less countries to be the leaders in Europe?
Two questions very complicated. The first, I think in the next European election, Popular Party, the party of Angela Merkel, Socialist Party, and ALDE, the Liberal Democrat Party, will have the majority with Macron movement and with Green Party. This is my forecast. It's a big coalition, but this coalition we will choose all the top jobs. We don't know in Italy. I think in Italy maybe the parties of government will have the 50%, 55%. But in the rest of Europe, this will be impossible. Also in Germany, just to make an example, some of you know very well Germany politics, but after the first signal of growth of Alternative for Deutschland, the crisis of traditional parties, particularly the Social Democratic Party, was balanced from the good result of Green Party. And Green Party is a very good pro-European party. So I think maybe Salvini, the leader of far-right movement in Italy, with maybe some Poland party, maybe with some Austrian, with Marine Le Pen, could play a role, but not with a good role in the European Parliament. And will be more probably, Salvini will become more centrist, and he try to become more near to Popular Party, then he continue with the strategy against establishment in Europe. This is my personal view. The second point was about...
The Democratic Party in Italy.
No, this I understand, but it's impossible to understand. And today, average, but you
If we're building a front in Italy or...
we will see. We will see. I think it's not crucial, the modality of presentation, but Europe, Italy, we have 76 seats now, and I think, obviously, last time we won the European election. My party was the best party, and I joke with Angela Merkel for that, because we achieved 11.2 million votes, and she achieved 10.6 million, so I'm very happy for that. I think it will be impossible for us to repeat that result, but I think Italy will be not able to block the pro-European majority.
You spoke, I don't know.
Congratulations, you are very...
You spoke repeatedly about the importance of education. So how do you encourage it, especially in the south of Italy and other places where people are not pursuing it?
So, I spoke about education also because I lost a part of consensus in the education. For the first time, after 30 years, my government increased the budget for education. But we asked to the teacher and the unions of teachers to change the modality and the role of teacher. We try to give a message of meritocracy in the school. And it's very important for school and for university in Italy. There are very great universities. We discussed with Italian students before, Politecnico, Bocconi, and lots of great universities. But we need more meritocracy in the school and the university in Italy. And unfortunately, unions organize very strong strikes against me. I'm very loved my wife, the only teacher who don't participate to these strikes. She's a great woman. But I think the average of participation of teachers is more than 90%. Because the message to give more money to the school, but with the meritocracy, was very negative for a part of unions. So this is the first consideration to speaking very honestly with you about the results of my government in this field. But I'm really happy for a lot of success. For example, I persuaded Tim Cook, exactly here, in Italy. I persuaded Tim Cook to open an Apple Academy in Naples. Naples is wonderful. It's one of the cities more beautiful in the world. But it's a city, it's the capital of South, with all the problems of the South. Legality, lack of trust and confidence in the future. So I persuaded the team to open this Apple Academy. 600 people worked in that very beautiful place with a good university, Federico II, University of Naples. We opened with Chuck Robbins, CEO of Cisco, an academy of Cisco in Naples. But we need more attention about this project, because in 3 years I achieved some results. But we need 5 years, 10 years to build a real strategy. So, for the future of education, first, we have to invest more money, public and private. For example, we open the private, I know when we discussed here about finance, you know, there are a lot of people who giving back a lot of money for universities. And I think it's a great thing. It's the best gift. I studied here, I became a great leader in my business, so I giving back. Exactly as Florence. You copy from Florence. But unfortunately, we have to copy today from American universities. And I opened for the first time the possibility for companies to invest in the school, particularly in technical approach, in technocratic system. And I have the reaction of my party in the left. So, we need a cultural change. We need years and years. I think education needs more money, first. Second point, more respect for the role of teacher. When I was a student, if I fought against a professor in the high school, the reaction of my father was, what do you think? What do you think? What is in your mind? You attack the professor, you are crazy. The generation of us, I'm 44-year-old, I have 3 children. When our children discussed with the professor, usually stay with the children and not with the professor. Professor lost a social respect in the last 25 years. This is a great problem. It's a problem for authority. It's a problem also in politics. If on Twitter and on Instagram I can write to president, to prime minister, you are stupid man, you don't understand. We lost the sense of authority. And this is true in family, this is true in the school, this is true in politics. But at the same time, we have to come back to give respect, social respect for professor. But also to give more money to the professor who work very well. Not everyone. And the meritocracy in Italy is a great battle. We will arrive step by step. We start, and in the south there are a lot of great institutions, great men and women, but the first is an open mind battle.
Go ahead.
Given that Brexit happened, what would you advise now to minimize the damage in the UK and in Europe as a whole?
My dream is a new referendum, also if I hate a referendum, you know. Tony Blair proposed that with John Major, and I think it's a very good idea, but in January 15, Theresa will prepare the vote in the parliament. I think will be a great damage in case of lack of agreement. The first damage will be economic, the second cultural, the third will be for the relation between students. You know, as Italians, we consider London a city full of Italians. When Boris Johnson was mayor and I was prime minister, he welcomed in London with this expression: "Welcome in the fourth city of Italy," because the number of Italians in London are unbelievable. Only Torino, Roma, and Milano present more Italians than London. I think will be more difficult to consider London as a city of Italian country and Italian culture in the next years. But for politics, I hope in the second referendum, 20%, 15%. I think if Theresa May will lose, will be a disaster. Let me be very clear for the people who study European politics. I think there is a problem also in the left, the Labour Party, because the position of Jeremy Corbyn is very strange. You have the possibility to open a fight, to maintain UK in EU, try. There is the majority today in the polls, according to the polls. No. Jeremy Corbyn is not Tony Blair, is not Gordon Brown, is not David Miliband. It's Jeremy Corbyn, unfortunately. I'm very diplomatic, eh? I'm ready for a study for diplomacy here in the Freeman Spogli Institute. Ron told me, oh, you're ready.
We're all learning.
For diplomacy.
What do you think of the idea of having a Europe with two different tracks, two different speeds? You know, one track for countries that want more integration, and one track for countries who are satisfied with the status quo. I ask this because, you know, with 27 countries, it's really difficult to move Europe forward.
I totally agree, but the problem is with the decision maker. Because Angela today is weakest. Emmanuel have a lot of problem in France. Italy is out of the discussion, unfortunately, for the decision of Italian government to refuse the idea. And so, the idea is good. The time is correct for two reasons, the new election and the decision of budget. Because with the money, you have the possibility to force the countries of East of Europe, because it's unbelievable, a part of European countries of East today refuse migration, refuse values after we paid for them to involve in European Union. French president lost the referendum for European East countries. And so the only way is the money. Money. European election, this is the time. The only problem, we need the leaders. Because, I repeat, Germany led Europe in the last 20 years, in my opinion, too much. Also because Angela is a great woman, great leader, but is more able in day by day than in a vision of strategy. When I discuss with her for how we can try a two-speed velocity, to speed count, oh yeah, it's a good idea. And waiting. So, I totally agree. This is time, but I'm not sure about the execution because we need a leader.
We have time for one more question. Why don't we go over here?
Thank you, grazie. I'm curious what the role of...
That's your Italian is better than my English.
No. Is there a single cryptocurrency on the horizon with blockchain ledger that might come to supplant the euro in something like 19 out of 27 or 28 European countries? Would that be a kind of possible wild card if government individual states saw it as a benefit, even for Brexit folks in Britain? And what role has the euro played on culture in Europe? Has that single currency of roughly maybe 20 years changed the culture in Europe from an Italian perspective, from your perspective? Thank you.
Single currencies was a very great thing for a lot of reasons, but euro is not Europe. So, single currency was a great step, but it's not enough. There are a lot of economic considerations about it, and there is no time. After the new currency, Italy's economy reduced its growth. And a lot of populists consider that the cause. My personal view is Italy out of single currency should be a disaster, unbelievable disaster. But I understood the level of exchange in the currency opened a lot of discussion in Italy. This is interesting to the people who study economy, and it will be very interesting to discuss about fiscal compact, economic strategy, single currency, and etc., etc. But personally, I think Euro transformed the culture and the life of citizens. And now the question is change the strategy of economy, yeah, and at the same time try to blockchain and new technologies, not only for the kind and the economy, but first of all for the public administration. If I think about blockchain technology, I believe crucial this point, not for the money, not only for the money, not for currency, but for reorganization of public administration. Because with the blockchain technology, this is my view, personal view, we can transform the relation between citizens and bureaucracy. And Europe is traditional. A country, a continent with a lot of problem of bureaucracy. So, Euro is a great thing, single currency is a must. Italy had a lot of discussion about it, but I think Italy received a lot of advantages from the participation to single currency. But if we think about blockchain technology, my view is will be important for money, but will be more important for the organization of machine. And this is a great thing. You know, in Italian expression, there is expression is PA, Pubblica Amministrazione, public administration. I think we have to transform PA in app. We turn. In the mobile, you can have everything. But attention, because there are a lot of people who think with this technology we can change also the participation to the votes. So we don't risk about it, and we don't open the discussion between influences of foreign policies, foreign powers in the organization of votes. Be careful. First thing is single currency is value. Second point, blockchain is a good technology for public administration and transform the relation between citizen and power. Third thing, the point is always the same. Europe have to embrace the future. If we continue to give a message, future with blockchain will destroy a lot of jobs in the banks. Maybe it's correct, but we will open more jobs than the jobs we destroy. Usually, all the transformation destroy jobs. When in Europe, we found in 1492 the print machine with Gutenberg, a lot of priests work in the monastery with copied books. Consider finished the time. When in UK Revolution in 18th century, Luddists destroyed the car because with the transformation technology, they think, our job is finished. They destroy the car, but they don't block the future. When the people of populists today give a message, the future will destroy the jobs. They destroy themselves, not the jobs. Obviously, to create new jobs, we will have to study. And not to study some single issues. Because if you consider a little boy or little girl of 6 years old, the job of this little boy or little girl, for 66%, two-thirds, will be a job that today doesn't exist. So in the school, it's not important to learn a single job, but open the mind. And so after 1 year and a half of discussion, 1 hour and a half of discussion, I come back to a single point. Education, education, education. And thank you so much to this bottega, the Bottega of Stanford, to welcome me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.